Also in that scene, though, with Q, I don't know why, but he's got the longest eyebrow hair I've ever seen in my life.
He's an old man. Old men have long eyebrows.
I've been on so many sets now. It's like if somebody's watching it and they're watching the screens and they notice like, oh, hey, Ryan's hair is like sticking out. Look, we need to cut and get hair and makeup on it. Like they would do that. You know,
but
they would do that.
I'm saying that like this hair was like hanging in front of his eye, and I was like,
no one's noticing.
Nobody
that,
trimmed it. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like having a booger in your nose. Maybe we should go back,
do another take. You know, fix that.
Nah,
unless that was the best take. And then something I want to point out before we forget it is a callback to another line, a James Bond line, which I was like, I can't remember any other time they do this. Is when Whitaker has his like science fiction gun, and he's like, "All right, you've had your 8.
All right, you've had your 8. Now I'll have my 80.
Mr. Smith & Wesson, and you've had your 6.
Like that was the callback. It was like the only callback to another line that I can think of, and it was just so happened the fact that we had just watched Dr. No comparing the last 2 movies, so I was like, oh, okay. So I see like they're trying to make all these very subtle callbacks, but I thought that was kind of like.
But at least
they
heighten it, right? And it's like you don't need to have seen Dr. No to understand that line. That this guy would very well know that Bond only has 8 at the most, 7 plus 1 in the chamber, and then he's going to return with his 80. But again, as we pointed out, it's like ridiculous that Bond wouldn't go for center mass. I mean, even when he shot General Pushkin, he shot him in the heart.
It's the first time I've ever been grateful that James Bond is a good shot.
Why was he insisting on shooting him in the head? Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, anybody knows who's handled a firearm would know that, like, you go for center mass. Like, it's not like you go for the head.
You don't go for the
center
head.
Mass.
People are like, why didn't that police officer shoot him in the leg or shoot the gun out of his hand? It's like, you've watched too many movies.
But
why would you ever?
Are trained.
Yeah, you kill that fucker because they might kill you.
Yeah,
you know?
You are trained to shoot center mass.
No, you should have shot the gun out of their hand like Clint Eastwood would have done in a movie where it's not real, but I think it's real because I was raised on movies. And that's all I ever do is watch movies. Yeah. And real life should be like a movie, and it should be ideal. Why can't everything be perfect? Why can't everything be fucking perfect? I don't understand why bad things need to happen to good people. I don't get it.
Okay, you're good. All right, Scott, calm down.
That's people today. Tiny detail that I just feel compelled to point out because I don't know why they did it. But in the prologue, there's a guy who's just driving with some people in a car. And he's the same guy from For Your Eyes Only who was pursuing Bond. So, I mean, he's obviously a friend of the producers, but like, I don't know why. It's like Drunk Guy all over again.
Yeah. There's another actor, and maybe you were talking about the same one, but there's a character in this movie, and I didn't catch him, but in The Spy Who Loved Me, he was the guy who's getting chased by Jaws in the pyramids. That actor comes back in this movie, but it was another callback. It was one of those scenes where like, oh, we're bringing back this other actor, but he's in a different role in this movie.
Speaking of your trivia, McCurdy, a very recognizable name popped up in the title sequence, Barbara Broccoli. Is this her first movie?
So she'd been working on these movies for a while. This is the first time she gets associate producer credit.
Okay, what was she? Was she doing assistant stuff before this?
I think she was an assistant director.
Okay,
but basically, I mean, being in the family, of course, she was an assistant. So they like pulled her in.
Yeah,
I mean, she was obviously working under her father and everything else. So like, yeah, that's Broccoli's daughter. She was going up the ranks, but she had been doing these movies for way before this too. So this is like the first time they've given her associate producer, and obviously. Like I said before, Michael G. Wilson is now getting a producer credit. Now, we're not saying it's Albert R. Broccoli and Michael Wilson like we would with Harry Saltzman, but you're seeing the beginnings of who's going to take the reins of the franchise in the very near future after this couple movies.
With the title sequence, I really don't like when they have these featured models in the title sequences. I much prefer when we just have purely objectified women. And I'm not just trying to be funny or just be a butthead. I don't like when you don't want anybody
specific. You just want it
because it's just weird.
Because it's like an aesthetic versus being something that like we're following a character.
Yeah, I just like these vague female shapes.
In Goldfinger, though, like the woman in Goldfinger is the same woman throughout. In the same woman who plays the girl who gets her ass slapped.
We never talked about that. Yeah.
Dink, meet Felix Leiter.
Hello.
Felix, say hello to Dink.
Hi, Dink.
That's Dink.
Yeah, that's the same one.
The model in Goldfinger is Dink.
The model in Goldfinger is Dink, and it's the same one. But like that, so it's not
really.
I could see them being like, oh, well, we're hearkening back to this, but I that's never bothered me.
But you can't recognize Dink. She's just like a gold woman. I'm talking about how with this, they have that shot of the chick at the end. They do that occasionally where it's like a featured model, like fully lit. And I like when they're just shades and shadows, and even the men are just shades and shadows.
Maybe
and
if
then
they're part
Bond
of the movie, it makes sense to feature
exactly.
them,
That's where it's like, who is this chick? And with the general lackluster feeling of the movie, this model chick even lays down to take a nap. Like even she's fucking bored.